He's an incredible advocate, an amazing human being. Please help me welcome Officer Tommy Norman.
Thank y'all so much for having me. I was telling Kyle and Jimmy that next year if I speak, I don't want to have to follow them. I want to speak first. Jimmy's a great speaker, and Scott and Kyle, but I want to start by thanking you all and Jimmy and Scott for the opportunity to be here today to kind of share a lot. I think mostly what I want you to leave here with is the pain that comes with losing someone. In my case, my daughter Alyssa, to a drug overdose. Alyssa actually was so excited about being here with me today. We had talked about it. When Jimmy asked me to come and speak, Alyssa was still here. And he sent me a text message and asked me would I feel comfortable coming to speak about drug addiction and opioid addiction from the role of a police officer and then as a parent. And told him, let me think about it, and I got with Alyssa, and Alyssa said, Dad, I'll come with you if that would make you feel better. So Alyssa is not here physically, but I know she's watching me and us, and I also have her with me right here on my necklace. I gotta tell you, talk about Jeannie McGill and our relationship started back a couple years ago, and some of you may have been at the kickball game, so a few of you were, and some of you may have heard this story, but I want to go ahead and tell them. I know Jeannie probably gets tired of me telling the story. I don't know where Jeannie is, but it was at Burns Park. It was police officers and recovery. It was a benefit kickball game, but Jimmy asked me to be a referee. And so, find whatever it takes to support the cause. And so, I'm out there refereeing probably 4 or 5 games into the tournament, and it was so much fun. Everybody was having a blast. Police officers, recovering addicts, hugging each other, laughing, and it was a blast. So, I'll back up and say that before the kickball game, Jimmy and I did a little promotional video at Burns Park. First time I met him. All I know, I didn't really know what he looked like. I just remember he had a kind of a bald head. And so we go out and we're videoing the promotional video, and we headbutted. Actually, Jimmy headbutted me. I'm thinking, this guy, do you know you just headbutted a police officer? And Jimmy didn't really seem to care. So we finished the video, and we have the kickball game. I'm out there, and this guy kicks the ball way up in the air. I'm looking to see where the ball is to get out of the way of the kickball. And this guy's running through the grass to catch it. And he ran full speed to the left side of my left knee. And I had a complete ACL tear, and I tore my meniscus, and I was off work for almost a year. So Jimmy and I have some pretty interesting stories to tell. But to be here today, this is the first time that I've shared at length my story about Alyssa. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a little nervous. I've spoken in front of groups before, but I never really spoke about Alyssa and her story and her not being here. Alyssa was born in July 24th of 1995. And I remember when she was born, I always wanted a girl. I remember that when Alyssa was born, finally I got this girl, and I'm telling her mom at the time, it's over for you because this is going to be a daddy's girl. Right? And she was. Alyssa was a daddy's girl. From her growing up and dressing her. And I always remember my mom, and her mom would always tease me, but I only knew how to brush Alyssa's hair one way, and that was to brush her hair back and put it in a big clip. It was it. That's all I knew how to do. And, she grew up to be a very, very sweet young lady. She loved her dad. She loved her family. She loved her brother. She was just a really, really, really friendly person. From going to high school and Cabot High School and graduating, and we spent a lot of time together. There was a time when Alyssa got older and her brother got older that there were times that we didn't talk some. Now initially I didn't think that was from her drug addiction or from her using drugs, but we kind of went our separate ways, and we would get close again, and then we wouldn't talk, and we would get close again. And I remember probably in I guess it would be 2020, I knew she had been in trouble with the law. I remember that she'd been arrested, but she would always reach out to me, let me know how she was doing. And then I remember last year, I received a letter from Alyssa, and I tried to find the letter. I didn't find it in time to come. I wanted to read the letter, but it's probably good that I didn't read it because I probably wouldn't have been able to read our letter. But it's a letter that she sent me and when she was staying at the Harbor Home in Conway. And you know, her letter said that, well, Dad, I'm here at the Harbor Home. I miss you. I miss our relationship. I miss what we had. She shared that she never thought that a father and a father's relationship with his daughter would ever be broken. She shared with me that her grandson Kingston was doing well, and she wanted me to see Kingston, and that they had church on Sundays. She shared how much she loved the Harbor Home, and that she would like to see me, that I could come on a Sunday and see her. And so I remember, I think it was probably the first part of July, I surprised her. I came on a Sunday to the Harbor Home, and I tried to sneak in the back door, but she saw me before I could actually get in there. And she ran up to me, and you've probably seen, you know, the video, but Alyssa, she hugged me, I hugged her, and we told each other that we missed each other, told each other how much we loved each other. And it was kind of like, you know, that moment in time, it was just frozen. It seemed like that when I hugged Alyssa, we hugged forever. And that day, actually, she shared her testimony. That was the day that she was chosen by the Harbor Home to share her testimony. I remember her testimony and how said she was tired of blaming others. Alyssa was tired of running from God. And she always shared when she was at the Harbor Home, she was in love with two things. She was in love with God, she was in love with the Harbor Home. And we went through the service that day, and then she asked Laura Lease, and Laura Lease is here today from the Harbor Home. I remember Alyssa telling me after the service, she's like, I'm going to ask him, Dad, if we can go out to eat. and they told her yes, and we had so much fun. We sat and we talked, and we caught up on so much. And Alyssa, she always, up until her last days here, she always got what she wanted from me. So the first day that I saw her after a couple of years at the Harbor Home after we ate, she's like, Dad, can we go to Target? I need some pants. Of course she knows I'm gonna say yes. We go to Target and she gets some pants, and I know some of the girls from Harbor Home probably remember those days when she would come back with bags of stuff. Then we went to Starbucks, and then the next Sunday I would show up. And I remember, you know, every Sunday after church service at the Harbor Home, they would always be nice enough to let Alyssa go out to eat with me. And I remember we would always come back to the Harbor Home. The sun would be setting. We would sit outside on the bench. And Alyssa never wanted me to leave. She would always come up with another story, another conversation. It melted my heart, you know. And I remember one time Laura Lease looked out the door, and she looked out the door and she looked at her watch, and Alyssa's like, I'll be there in a few minutes. And she didn't want to leave her dad. Her dad didn't want to leave me. And so I would come back every Sunday, and Alyssa, she got promoted to phase 2 of the Harbor Home, and then she was able to do more. She was able to get a job, and we got her membership at the fitness place in Conway, and we got to spend more time together. And we would always say that we want to eat healthy every time I picked her up. You know, let's go get a salad from US Pizza or something healthy, but it was always bad, high calorie food. She told me that she was looking to get a job at Stobie's in Conway, and she was so excited. So we got her some some shoes, and we got her some more pants, and we got her some jewelry, and you know, she was really excited about working at Stovey's. Some of the last memories that we had is we went to the state fair, and I mean, you're talking about fun. I mean, we rode the rides and we ate food, and I remember that night, she didn't want to leave the fair. Alyssa wanted to spend as much time as she could with her dad, and I wanted to spend as much time as I could with Alyssa. I didn't see it coming. I don't think that Alyssa saw it coming, but I know that God saw it coming. You know, we spent a lot of time together. I was able to see her baptized. She got her van running. Alyssa was so happy. She was happy about life, and she would always say, "Daddy, I got this." And you know, when she would say, "Daddy, I got this," it was full of confidence when she said that. You know, she was so confident and she was so happy. She loved the girls at the Harbor Home. She loved, Miss Dana, and she loved Laura Lease and everyone there. And, in my opinion, they saved Alyssa's life. Alyssa was, she was a woman that really looked out for other people and was worried about other people before she worried about herself. So I remember I went to Houston, Texas for a banquet the weekend before she passed away. And she had went to a wedding, and she had went with Hannah from the Harbor Home, and she sent me pictures of how she was dressed up at the wedding, and her and Hannah sent me pictures, and I sent her a picture of me in Houston, and we would always do the audio messages too. So I have an iPhone, and I would always audio message Alyssa because it was quicker than texting. She would send me audio messages back, and I remember the girls from the Harbor Home in the background laughing and giggling and yelling my name, Officer Norman. Hey, Officer Norman, they were being silly. And she just loved that relationship. Came back from Houston on a Saturday, and Alyssa and I had prepared to see each other on that Wednesday, which would have been November the 16th. She was going to be off that day, but they called her into work because they were shorthanded. And she texted me, she said, "Dad, I got bad news, I've got to go to work, and I really wanted to see you." I said, "Well, if you get off work early enough, I'll drive to Conway and we can go out and get some ice cream or something, just spend a few minutes together." And so she texted me November 16th, that Wednesday evening, and she said, "Dad, I got off work late." This was about 7:30. So I called Alyssa, and as soon as she picked up, she just sounded different. She didn't sound like herself. And it really, really bothered me. I couldn't even really sleep that night because I really felt like something had happened. Because me and Alyssa talk every day. We text every day. She had her daddy back. She was so happy. And I felt like that her having me back it played a big role in her recovery. Every girl needs their daddy. And we talked, and I told her, she knew I woke up early. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and the next morning, I told Alyssa good night. I stayed getting home, and then the next morning, I'm at work. There's certain moments in your life you remember exactly where you are and who you were with, right? Like 9/11. Everybody remembers where you were on 9/11 if you were here. I'm sitting at Riverfront Park with two other officers, and my phone rings, and it says, "Harbor Home, Laura Lease. Laura Lease, he's here today." And I froze. I didn't want to answer that phone. Like, that moment in time, I was looking at my phone, two other officers are here, we're just talking, getting our day started. So I hit accept, I say hello, And Laura Lee says, Tommy, Alyssa overdosed. Said, okay, Laura Lee, where is Alyssa? I want to go see my daughter. And Laura Lee says, Tommy, she's not here. She didn't make it. And so I told Laura Lee I would be on my way. And I remember when I hung up the phone, I started screaming. I got out of my car, and the other officer, I got out of my police car and collapsed, and the other officer lifted me up. And they rushed me home, changed. My wife left work and drove me to Conway, to the harbor home. In that part, it seemed like something out of a movie. Turned to the harbor home, there's a little bit of gravel. I just remember the sounds of the tires hitting the gravel and my wife's driving me there. And I saw the coroner's van and I saw the police cars. And as soon as we pulled up to the harbor home, we went into police mode. I've been a police officer for 24 years, and being a police officer, it kind of hardens you. You know, you see the worst in life. And I guess, fortunately for me, when I pulled up, after about 10 minutes, they carried my daughter out in a white body bag. But I was in police mode, right? I'm thinking, okay, I can switch this over, and I did. Didn't even cry. Now I'll go ahead and just be as transparent as I can today. But you know that good cry, where you cry like a baby, and after that you want to take a nap? 106 days ago, Alyssa passed away. And for 106 days, I haven't had that cry. I want to have that cry. For some reason, I can't. And in a way, it kind of irritates me. When I was going to see a counselor, who wouldn't cry if you saw your daughter carried out in a body bag? Who wouldn't just lose it? Most of you in this room would, right? Or anybody that you were close to. But in my case, it was my beautiful daughter, Alyssa. I remember asking the coroner, can I see my daughter? And he says, no. And I knew I couldn't see my daughter. I knew from being a police officer, they're not going to let you see your loved ones when they're getting ready to load her up into the back of the van. So I asked all these questions, you know, where is she going? Do you have a business card? And they took her. I remember, for as far as my eyes could see, I watched the van that my daughter was in being driven away. And then from there we leave and we go tell her brother. We knock on her brother's door. And these are stories that I haven't told anybody yet. So these are the first time that anybody's heard this. But we go knock on Mitchell's door in Cabot. Me and Mitchell's mom. And Mitchell, he opens the door. You can tell he'd been asleep. And I think Mitchell thought we were there for intervention. Because Mitchell is, my son Mitchell, he needs some help. And Mitchell will be okay with me telling you this because Mitchell, we always thought when Mitchell and Alyssa, when we discovered that Mitchell and Alyssa were using drugs, that we would get a call about Mitchell, that we would never get a call about Alyssa. And when Mitchell's like, what are you both doing here? Because he never sees me and his mom together. They knew something bad had happened. And I said, Rose couldn't get her words out. Alyssa's mom he was just too emotional. I said, Mitchell, your sister's gone. He overdosed, and he just collapsed. It was like he was a baby again. He collapsed and started screaming. And Mitchell says, Dad, it should have been me. So, we have Alyssa's funeral at the Harbor Home, and I can't thank the Harbor Home enough for the way they were there for Alyssa. And then we have the graveside. And I never thought, I always thought that the first time I would experience sitting where families sit at the graveside, and people come and shake your hand and hug you, I thought the first time that would ever happen would probably be when my mom passed away and she's still here. But to sit there, Well, let me back up and say this, and I'm a little off track, but have to give me a pass today. But at Alyssa's visitation, so they had the family visitation first, where just the families there. And she wasn't out from the casket yet. And I remember people that ran the Natural State Funeral Home in Jacksonville that asked me and the rest of the family, "Are you ready for Alyssa to come out?" I turned my back because the door was here. They bring Alyssa out, and it was an open casket, and she's beautiful, obviously. And so finally I had enough courage to turn around and look at Alyssa. You know, I'm thinking, wow, she's not here anymore. And then I remember, at the funeral at the Harbor Home, they would play this video clip of Alyssa, all these memories with her family and her friends, and it still doesn't seem real today. I have my good days, I have my bad days, I have days where I don't want to get up and go to work. I have days that I don't want to be around anybody. Then I have days where I feel like I can conquer the world. I do know that Alyssa is always watching. Alyssa's watching us right now. And I know that Alyssa wants her dad to remain strong. When Alyssa passed away, I thought, well, what better way than to try to save other people's lives and do it through Alyssa? And the sleeve on my shirt says, #Do it for Alyssa. I wanted the world to see Alyssa's face. I wanted the world to hear Alyssa's story. And they still do. I would always share with people that if my daughter could save one person's life, and her death wouldn't be in vain. I didn't want her death to be quiet. I didn't, because, on November 16th, she went back to the Harbor Home after work. She put her son Keith in the bed, and she had a weak moment. She had a weak moment in the bathroom at the Harbor Home, and she was found dead the next morning. And that's a day the worst day of my life. But in order for Alyssa's story to save other people's lives, I have to have enough strength to stand here today and share that story with you. And when Jimmy asked me, and then when Alyssa passed away, I'm thinking, I don't know that I can get up here and do this. But God has lifted me up today, and Alyssa's lifted me up, and you're lifting me up. As a police officer for 24 years, I've always been a patrol officer. I never want to do anything else. I didn't want to be a sergeant or work in the schools or work in the courtroom, because I love working in the neighborhoods and the streets. That's just the calling that I have. And I've met a lot of people, addicts, people in recovery, and I've always just fallen in love with them, because God's given me this heart to always be there for people that society has given up on. Yes. Right? But I've always been drawn to those people. So when I walked into the Harbor Home on that Sunday, and I surprised Alyssa, I would look at all these ladies, and I would always ask Alyssa about these ladies. And the next time I came, or if Alyssa would call me, I would say, how is so-and-so, how is so-and-so, how is so-and-so? Because I'm so drawn to people that have fought battles and that have fought addictions, because I want to do my part to help. And I was going to say this, I had a speech prepared, but I left it in my truck because I probably wouldn't even been able to read it. But, just a disclaimer is that I'm no expert. If anything I'm telling you, I'm no expert. I'm not an expert police officer. I'm not an expert person that can tell you, give you this magic cure. What I do know is I lost a daughter almost 4 months ago, and I know that it's the worst pain ever. But I know that if Alyssa was here, she would be here today supporting her dad, and she would be hugging all of you. She would be telling you it's going to be okay. She would. That's Alyssa. I remember being a police officer, and maybe there would be days during my shift that I responded to an overdose. And there's nothing to it for me as a police officer. I get their information, you have to notify the family, you call the coroner out, and then if my shift's over, I go home, take off my boots and my uniform, and don't think anything else about it. But once Alyssa passed away from an overdose, that took on a whole different meaning. I remember I was off for probably a month, and the third day back to work, there was a call went out of an overdose, and that triggered it. All I could see was Alyssa being brought out of that body bag, and And I remember my first day back to work, I got sent to a 4-car accident. And I remember getting to that accident, getting out of my car. I don't worked accidents a ton in my career, but I was shaking. I had my notepad out and I was shaking, and the firefighter's looking at me. He's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I just need a little bit of help getting information," but you know, it was like, wow, just the impact that death has on you and the impact that losing your child has on you. If it wasn't for my faith, I'm a man of strong faith, and a lot of people ask me, how have you done it? My family, my close friends, my community, and my faith, I think, more than anything else, is just my faith.
Yes.
That's really got me here. So, you know, I'll end by saying that Jimmy asked you for an hour. I told him I couldn't give him an hour, but I would always say, this is not going to happen to me. It won't happen to me. But when I got that call from the Harbor home about Alyssa, all that changed. It can't happen to you.
Yep.
But for everyone here, I got a chance to visit with some of you, but Tommy Norman loves you. And I mean that, right? Alyssa loves you. Dana, thank you so much. And Laura Elise, I mean, Alyssa, for her to leave this earth at the Harbor home brought me comfort. And it's one thing to hear about the Harbor home, and it's another thing to go there and just see how these women really are so eager to change their life. And so there was probably more that I wanted to say to you. I think I covered mostly everything. I was a little nervous even last night going to sleep today. I was going to trick Jimmy and tell Jimmy that I couldn't make it, but because he said be here at 12 for sound check. And I wasn't here at 12, but I was going to have someone walk up and tell him Tommy can't make it. But I like messing with Jimmy, because Jimmy's always messing with me. Did anybody have any questions? Anyone, I don't know if you're allowed to ask me questions. Anybody have any questions they may want to ask? I'll be happy to answer some questions. No question?
Can I just say something?
Yes.
I was in my office the day Alyssa came in with the letter she wrote, and she read it to me. She said, "Dana, you got feedback?" She said, "My dad, you think you would receive it?" And I said, "Oh, nothing would thrill your father more than to do this for you and to reunite you. The day you walked in that harbor and you two reunited, I'm telling you now, it changed Alyssa's life.
Thank you, Dana.
You know, it was the best thing you could have ever done. Showing up every Sunday to be there for her and young girl. It just meant the world to her. And everything she has said and you have said about how much she loves you, we know it to be an absolute fact. So
I appreciate you. I did leave something out, and Dana reminded me of that, is the letter that she sent. So I always think, what if Alyssa and I were still not on speaking terms, and then I get a call about her passing away? Oh, that would have been terrible. So God, I'm telling you, God was preparing Alyssa. God was preparing Alyssa by bringing her daddy back. And that letter, I get chills talking about it, but in that letter, she's like, "Daddy, I want you, I need you back." And you know, the hug, seeing her baptized, going out to that shop, and then going to Stobie's and having breakfast after Alyssa passed. It's everybody in there. It's like, we loved Alyssa. Just that only a few weeks of her working out there. You know, I have a bracelet that says "Do it for Alyssa." And Kurt Lane asked me one time, you know, what does that mean, do it for Alyssa, Tommy? I was like, not necessarily do it for Alyssa by fighting the battle of drug addiction, but do it for Alyssa by speaking to someone, giving someone a hug, giving someone a compliment. Alyssa did all that. If you, and Dana said it, and everybody else that knew Alyssa was going to smile at you and hug you. She was going to give you a compliment. She was going to make you laugh. You know, we all have a weak moment, and Alyssa had a weak moment, and it took her life. But learn from Alyssa's story. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your family. You know, God bless you. You know, we can all fight this together and we can be victorious. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tommy, Officer Norman, for sharing that story and turning that pain into something so powerful and impactful. Really, the only thing I can say to that is that I'm committed. I know this room of people are committed to doing it for Alyssa and doing exactly what he said.